Welcome to NFL Nexus, the place where we don't just read the headlines, we absolutely tear them apart to find the truth hiding underneath. Today, we are dissecting a massive, foundation-shaking turning point for one of the most historic franchises in the National Football League. We're getting deep into the raw data, the film, and the source material to uncover a story of immense consequence for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, before we step onto the field, I need you to do something for me. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts as we go along, and if you really want to support the deep dives we do here, become a channel member today. So, I want you to really think about this for a second. What actually happens when a franchise known for historic, absolute stability suddenly finds itself staring down the barrel of a completely uncertain future? The Indianapolis Colts are standing on the precipice of a monumental shift in their offensive structure. So, we need to dive right into the data to see what is actually happening on the gridiron. You know, in the National Football League, franchise expectations aren't just given to you. They are built on decades of history. The Colts are an organization carrying a massive, undeniable legacy. They've essentially set a gold standard that every single subsequent generation of players is ruthlessly measured against. When you put on that horseshoe, you aren't just playing for the current roster. You are stepping into a shadow cast by absolute giants. It's a culture of franchise immortality. What does it actually mean to be remembered in this league? It means your name echoes through the stadium long after your cleats are hung up. It means every time a player walks through those locker room doors, they are reminded of the legendary standard of greatness that surrounds the team. To truly understand exactly where this team is heading in this completely pivotal upcoming season, we first have to fully acknowledge that overwhelming standard. And honestly, there is no more perfect example of that standard than Adam Vinatieri. He was recently cemented into the Colts Ring of Honor, and let's just pause to take that in. This is a guy who built an immortal legacy. We are talking about a man who secured 3 Super Bowls during his time with New England before bringing that championship DNA right into Indianapolis. Decades, literally decades, of the most iconic, game-winning, clutch moments you will ever see in the sport. Imagine the ice in his veins standing on the field, the entire stadium holding its breath, knowing the entire season comes down to a single swing of his leg. That is what historic greatness looks like in Indianapolis. That is the bar. But as beautiful as it is to honor that storied past, the current roster is waking up to a jarring, uncomfortable reality. Because while the franchise rightfully celebrates its history, the very foundation of their current offense has suddenly shifted beneath their feet. A massive void in target share has materialized out of nowhere. It is a completely shocking offensive void that is fundamentally altering how this passing game is going to operate from this moment forward. This massive disruption stems from a departure that sent shockwaves through the entire league. Michael Pittman Jr., the absolute anchor of this receiving core, traded away to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just like that, the Colts lose their alpha receiver. They lose their primary safety blanket. I really want you to consider the granular, psychological impact of losing your number 1 target. For a young quarterback like Anthony Richardson, who relies on that big body over the middle when the pocket collapses, this is devastating. A quarterback's internal clock is tied to his receivers. When your primary read is gone, the panic can set in. Suddenly, we're talking about hundreds of passes, thousands of yards, and countless critical first downs that are now completely unaccounted for. It leaves a massive, gaping vacuum of targets in that receiver room. Now, part of the front office's strategy to adapt to this new reality involves a major, and I mean major, financial commitment. Alec Pierce just signed a staggering $116 million contract extension. $116 million. Think about the sheer gravity of that number. That kind of money completely alters the gravitational pull of an entire offense. When a franchise commits that level of capital to you, the expectations don't just rise, they soar into the stratosphere. Every defensive coordinator in the league is going to look at that contract and scheme against it. Defenses will inevitably key in on him, bringing immense, suffocating pressure for Pierce to perform as a primary focal point. He is now the guy under the brightest spotlight. But with Pittman gone, and Pierce drawing the heaviest, most brutal double coverage, a crucial question emerges. Who fills the massive void in the shadows? Enter Josh Downs. This is the cinematic protagonist of our story for the 2026 season. Based on the roster construction, the defensive attention shifting elsewhere, and the sheer volume of available targets, the heavy looming expectations of this entire offense are about to shift squarely onto his shoulders. He is the master plan. He is perfectly positioned to become the exact key that unlocks the absolute future of this passing attack. Now, to really understand why this is a potential volcano ready to erupt, we need to spend some serious time looking at this one specific metric. It is absolutely crucial. Out of 121 high-volume wide receivers in the NFL since he entered the league in 2023, Josh Downs ranks 111th in air yards per target. 111th out of 121. I want you to really unpack what that means. It means he has been completely confined to an incredibly shallow route tree. We're talking quick outs, we're talking bubble screens, we're talking shallow crossers directly into the teeth of the linebackers. Every time he catches the ball, he's basically shaking hands with a metal linebacker. He has essentially been held back, restricted by offensive limitations and an agonizingly shallow target depth. He hasn't been allowed to stretch his legs. He hasn't been allowed to fly. And this is exactly where head coach Shane Steichen's brilliant offensive mind comes into play. Steichen's system is a masterclass in geometry and leverage. Step 1, he designs the scheme to use precise, high-speed pre-snap motion to get receivers completely clean, free releases off the line of scrimmage. Think about the biomechanics of a wide receiver. If a cornerback gets his hands on you at the line, your route is disrupted, your timing is dead, and the play is over. By manufacturing these free releases, Steichen ensures Downs can hit top speed instantly. Step 2, this instantly boosts his average depth of target. Because he's not fighting through a mugging at the line, he gets downfield faster. And step 3, once you can consistently achieve that clean release and push deeper, you can exploit the deep field in ways Downs literally hasn't been asked to do yet. It is a perfectly engineered scheme for his specific skill set. So let's painstakingly look at what he's already done with his hands tied behind his back. In his first 47 games, Downs built an incredibly solid foundation. He fought tooth and nail for 198 receptions. He clawed his way to 2,140 total yards, and he managed to find the end zone for 11 touchdowns. What is absolutely crucial for you to remember as you look at these numbers is that almost every single one of those yards was earned in the absolute tightest, most heavily defended, shallowest areas of the football field. Every yard was a war, and he still put up over 2,000 of them. They are the building blocks of a legendary destiny. Let's dissect his 2025 season with surgical precision. On paper, you might see 58 catches, 566 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And you might think, okay, that seems relatively modest. But you have to look at the context. In the context of Steichen's newly opened offense and the massive target share that just opened up with Pittman's departure, these numbers aren't a ceiling. They are a ticking time bomb waiting to absolutely explode. They show a player who is succeeding in a highly restricted, high-difficulty role, who is now completely and totally ready for a massive increase in high-value opportunities. And I'm not the only one seeing this. ESPN's Ben Solak makes an incredibly compelling argument for what this breakout is going to look like, drawing a direct, undeniable parallel between Josh Downs and Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Now, in the NFL scouting community, Smith-Njigba represents the absolute elite tier of route running efficiency. Comparing anyone to JSN is like uncovering a sacred text of wide receiver play. It is a heavy, heavy comparison. Now, obviously, when we look at the physical stature of these two guys, there is a difference. Downs possesses a slightly shorter, much lighter frame compared to Smith-Njigba's historic production profile. But here is the secret. Downs compensates for his lack of size beautifully. He doesn't need to rely on overpowering defenders with sheer brute strength. Instead, he utilizes an absolutely identical, deadly fluidity in his route running to create vital, wide-open separation. As Solak points out, quote, Downs shares Smith-Njigba's fluidity as a route runner. I want to really analyze that word for a second. Fluidity. What does fluidity actually mean on an NFL football field? It's all about biomechanics. It means the ability to run at 21 miles per hour, completely drop your center of gravity, flip your hips, and change direction on a dime without losing a single fraction of a step. It is a violent, beautiful movement that breaks a defensive back's ankles. And it's exactly that precise, smooth movement that Steichen's scheme relies on to open up those deeper, game-breaking targets. If we look at Smith-Njigba's absolute peak production, we are talking a jaw-dropping, 119 catches, nearly 1,800 yards, and 10 touchdowns. We are looking at a mythical summit. This is the Mount Everest of what this specific offensive role can achieve. It's an almost insurmountable mountain. But Downs is now being tasked with conquering it. He is being asked to elevate his game and chase this exact elite statistical profile. So the tension is building. The 2026 season is looming closer by the second. With the massive roster shift solidified, the offensive scheme perfectly in place to elevate his target depth, and the historical, monumental standards of this franchise looming large in the background, everything is pointing to the most critical moment in this team's modern history. The pieces are flawlessly aligned for a completely new era in the Colts passing game. and the projections fully reflect the reality of what's coming. Let this prediction from Ben Solak echo in your mind for a second. Downs is positioned to transform from a restricted, shallow target receiver into an undeniable focal point. And, quote, he'll end the year as a household name. The scheme is built. The opportunity is massive. But it all comes down to one chilling, unresolved question. Will Josh Downs rise from the shadows of his predecessors to forge his own legacy and eventually his own place in the Ring of Honor?
The upcoming season holds all the answers, and the source material makes it incredibly clear that we are about to witness a fascinating, explosive shift for this offense. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive explainer. Remember to subscribe to NFL Nexus, smash that like button, comment down below on whether you think Downs is going to break out, and join the inner circle by becoming a channel member today. We will see you next time as we continue to tear down the walls and break down the data behind the biggest headlines in football.